Hello, good morning, good evening, people. We are back with One Leeds. We're back with another stream. We're back with another Leeds United edition of what is going on with Leeds United's transfers. Leeds United's just phase right now. It just seems to be moving left, right, and Charlie. But before we start the stream, everybody, please make sure you're liking, subscribing, and commenting your thoughts on the channel as always. I can see Matt's in here, 5 a.m. from Canada. I can see Tracy's in here, 2 a.m. from the other side of the world as well. There are lots of you in the building, guys. Please make sure you slap a like on the video. We're going to be speaking about a lot of things today. We've got a bit of an emergency chat as well, which is great news. It was nice to wake up to this morning. A little bit of and I said this was going to happen in terms of things breaking down. So transfers happen, and this might be the way forward for Leeds United. But if you haven't done so, everybody, please check out a little bit of a funny golfing side yesterday. We had a bit of a funny video yesterday go up, and yeah, make sure you check that out. Something a little bit different, isn't it? A bit of a laugh to break up the transfer malarkey. Sometimes when it's just rammed down your throat, transfer. I'm sure you lot can get a bit sick of it and you want to break from that. We did something yesterday on the channel, which you might enjoy, you might not enjoy. But yeah, on the Patreon as well, we've got articles, we've got soft launches of something that should be literally coming today, I believe, if my man is going to be able to get this sorted. And we have videos throughout the week as well. We've got a live in-person chat as well for Generation Leeds coming up. Guys, hope you're all doing fantastically well on this average morning in the UK. What's going on with you? Stephen's in the building. Morning, Connor. Caught you live for Warren's member for 7 months. Shout out, buddy. Shout out to you. Morning. It says, morning, mate. Catching live before starting work later. Shout out to you, Michael. Good man. Yeah, some people said that they're live watching me on a sunbed. I don't know how that's working. Aiden's from Israel. Shout out to you, my man. Hi from Wales, says Colin. Okay, everybody, keep getting your thoughts in the chat as well. So, where should we start with this? Leeds United, as you can see by the thumbnail, pole position. Have I got you guys in here and I am lying about this? Absolutely not. Okay, so it feels and looks like Marseille have hit a massive stumbling block with Jonny Rowe. Now, I was quite confused as to why this didn't progress really quickly. And Marseille came in and immediately I thought, oh dear. I thought, okay, Leeds have mucked around a little bit here, potentially, and this isn't going to work. This isn't going to happen. However, you know, what we do know with the 49ers is they're shrewd negotiators. Historically, that will tell you. And yeah, you're looking at this whole process and thinking, are Leeds going to match the bid? Is this going to happen? Look, Leeds haven't put the bid in. Marseille have put 8 million quid in. That's the level now. That's the thing that you're going to have to up on. Jonny Rowe's done his part, and this sounds awful in football, everybody, but you kind of have to do that. It's not just about the club trying to force your hand. The player invariably has to force their hand. Now, what Jonny Rowe has done, he was a Norwich lad, and he is a Norwich lad. He's came through the academy. Now, imagine if that was Calvin for us, right? He's forced Norwich's hand and said, I'm not playing. Now he's been cast out to the 21s. There's discussion about him potentially playing, not playing. There was a story leaked to Mike McGrath the other day discussing how he will not be playing. And, you know, he's essentially doing it because he's waiting for a transfer. It's all going off on the Norwich side of things. Now, what is happening on their side? They have just been taken over by Norwich Holding Agency or something of the likes. Now, why is that important? Do we need to know the name of it? Absolutely not. But they've taken over majority hold down there at Norwich, while, you know, Michael Wynne-Jones and Delia Smith go to a minority stake of like 5 to 10%. So they basically don't have any say in anything right now. It's all up to this Norwich holding group, whatever they're called. Now, obviously, that means there's going to be fresh cash injection. Norwich haven't spent an abundance of money over the past couple of years. Obviously, they've had the parachute payments, but they've not gone overboard. Norwich are pretty much a self-sustainable club under Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones. So these guys coming in probably have a little bit more room to spend. Now, what else do we know when it comes to Norwich? They have just sold Adam Eder for 9 million quid to Celtic. They've also pocketed around about 15 to 18 million for Gabby Sarah. So, as we know, selling your best assets in this division is likely, and especially when you're in Norwich's position, when your assets are going to be stripped, when you got to have this parachute payments bracket, which has happened with them this year. So Leeds United are now in a very, very good position, and let me tell you why. Marseille on the other side of this. So we've seen the Norwich side of things a little bit stronger financially now. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Can they keep hold of Jonny Rowe for another season? Could they even activate that year-long contract again? Who knows? Who knows with this new ownership? Can they convince Rowe to come back in? Can it happen where, as we did with Willian Yonta, where it's like, you're not going anywhere, Norwich dig the feet in? That 100% can happen. He's only got 12 months left on his deal, but things can change. He could be offered a contract in that time and he could accept it. Might happen, might not happen, especially if he wants to move somewhere else. However, the Marseille side of thing is really interesting now. Around about 9 a.m. yesterday, there was loads of reporters saying that, look, Eddie Nketiah, Marseille, it's a goer. 30 million quid. Unbelievable bid for Eddie Nketiah. Marseille making some really smart moves this window. You're thinking, bloody hell, 30 million quid. Right, okay. Where are they going to be after that? They're still after Jonny Rowe as well. So they've clearly got a bit of money in the bank. Yesterday, it broke around about midday that they are then out of the Eddie Nketiah discussion. That is done. They are now completely, they've informed Arsenal, they're out. And I remember seeing that and thinking, okay, that's a bit odd. That's interesting how it's got to this point when it's come to him, and then out of nowhere, they're not pursuing it. Okay, that's fine. There's talks. It got to an advanced stage with Eddie. Suddenly, Marseille are out of the conversation. Interesting. Then it started steamrolling around about sort of like afternoonish, and this had been going on for ages, but the finalization of Wahi from RC Lens going to Marseille. Now, I was thinking, are they going to pull out of this one? So is this going to be a bit indicative of money problems here from Marseille? But they went for the striker. Obviously, this guy plays along the front line. He can play left, he can play right, he can play striker. They've gone and had a bid accepted, and they've essentially signed him for 25 million euros plus 5 million add-ons. Okay, pretty big fee again. When you boil it down, what you're probably looking at 23 million quid altogether or something like that when you convert it into pounds. Still a lot of money. Still a lot of money for a Ligue 1 side as well, who, invariably there's been a lot of chat about Serie A and Ligue 1 sides, barring PSG, not spending that much money in these transfer windows. Marseille seems to seemingly bucking that trend a little bit. So 8 million quid is there on the table for Jonny Rowe. What do we know? That's been rejected by Norwich. L'Equipe have published an article this morning stating that Marseille will not be able to afford Jonathan Rowe. Emergency chat. They will not be able to afford what Norwich City are demanding for Jonny Rowe. Now, what does this tell us? Leeds have been in talks with this lot. Jesus Christ, it feels like a month, Jonny Rowe. And we're all saying, just get the frigging thing done. If you can't get it done, move on. There are a lot of good wingers out there. Jeez Louise, a hell of a lot of good wingers out there. Premier League wingers who are available on loan. We could go through on the channel. We've done a bit on the Patreon on that. There are players who are not going to be involved in the 25-man squad when it's officially released. Go and get them. Go and get these players, okay? Forest, Brentford, Brighton, whatever. Crystal Palace, potentially. But we seem to be really, really still in talks with Jonny Rowe. Now, the booster is Marseille apparently cannot afford the fee. Norwich are demanding what they're demanding. But could Norwich now, with the boost in payments from Adam Eder, the boost in payments from Gabi Sara, and obviously the takeover all happening within the space of 10 days, is that then going to give them a little bit a bit more financial might to go, okay, well, we'll up that again. Has it even happened that they've turned around to Marseille and said, all right, we want a couple of million more now? Now, this hasn't been reported, obviously, but I just thought it was really strange out of nowhere. They've always been talking about the Wahi deal. That's always been on the back burner. Nketiah was dropped out, but then suddenly this morning, as Norwich have been taken over last night, and we're speculating, we're hypothesizing, as we always do, but suddenly, L'Equipe reporting, the biggest publication in France this morning, that they're out. They're out of this race. They cannot afford him whatsoever. So have Norwich up the bid a little bit, and it hasn't been fully reported yet? Or are they just turning around and there's been some financial issues in and around that sphere where, you're turning around and they're just going, well, we cannot afford him. On the basis that maybe bonuses that they've agreed, clauses that they've agreed in the Wahi deal. So there is a lot going on here. There's a lot going on at Norwich. There is a lot going on when it comes to Marseille. And obviously the middlemen, I should say, are Leeds United right now. What do we know from the Leeds side of things? They evidently really like Jonny Rowe. I mentioned yesterday on the stream that I believe that they thought Rowe was lost when Marseille came in. I think they thought Rowe was lost. Marseille came in. Loads of publications were reporting down there that Rowe omitted himself from the side at the weekend for Marseille, which I speculated on the night. I said, look, Marseille have come in and said, look, you omit yourself from the side. You do your bit, which is massive from Jonny Rowe, by the way, because he has burned every single bridge that he's built at Norwich, which he's done through his entire life. He's burned all that. He's burnt it to the ground to go to Marseille. Okay. That now doesn't look like it's happening because we know Norwich won't accept anything in the region of 8 million quid and Marseille can't afford to go higher. So what does this mean? Who is left in the middle? It is Leeds United. Okay. So we're probably, if we're being honest with each other, not his preferred choice. Why? Take those spectacles off, take those white tinted glasses off. It is Marseille. They are a massive club in France. I'd argue they're the second biggest club in France. They will likely be in Europe again when after, obviously, they're going to be out of it this season, finish 8th last season, I think, but they'll have a season in Ligue 1, then be back in Europe. He's probably looking at the amount of players who've left England and then been transferred back to top clubs in England, because that's what English clubs do for whatever reason. Obviously, we've seen it with the Bundesliga loads, haven't we? So, you look at Bellingham. Obviously, Sancho did so well out there, didn't he? Haaland, and obviously, I know there's different regions and stuff when it comes to Norway to Germany, but you get my drift. Players seem to build their profiles a lot. Tomori, etc. Tammy Abraham, they build the profiles in Europe and then potentially are coming back to England for big fees instead of just going up the pyramid straight to a Premier League side or whatever, or straight to a Championship club. Now, what do we need to know about this whole thing? Now, the saga, everybody, and it has turned into a saga now. This is exactly what a saga is. It's chaos. There's clubs involved. There's probably more clubs involved as well, everybody. I hate to break the news here, but in my opinion, it's not just Leeds and Marseille, which means that if Marseille are out the hunt, other clubs' ears are going to be pricked up by this, because from Rowe's side, from his agent's side, from Marseille, their side, there was a big connection there and he was probably going to go. That's what everybody thought. Now that's not happened, unless Norwich are putting everybody off with this new valuation because they've got an increased cash injection. They've got, the money as well from Adam Eder, which is massive at this level, 9 to 10 million quid. You're looking at that and thinking, right, well, maybe Norwich are going to demand a little bit more because he's a homegrown lad and they're just going to dig the heels in here, which Norwich can do, and he is their asset. Okay. But Leeds are in a position of which we are going for a top talent here. And the position we're in, which isn't great, is we're in the same division as Norwich. And Norwich, whatever you lot might think about their start, losing to Oxford, yada, 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 there is 2 weeks left of the window. We have seen what Sheffield United have done in 2 weeks in terms of player incomings. Now, I'm saying player incomings. I'm not going to say Norwich are going to have the same player incomings as in a similar vein in terms of caliber and quality as Sheffield United. But we've seen what clubs can do in 2 weeks when it comes to transfers. They can be, with Sheffield United, it feels like it's been every other day they've brought players in. So clubs can do this. Norwich could do this towards the back end of the window, which means they could elevate the squad. Obviously, Rowe might think, oh, do you know what? I'll give it another and look again at this in January or whatever. So there are so many moving parts here. And it comes back to Leeds United saying, do you know what? We'll pay the money. Okay. But also, this is a very, very ambitious bid for Leeds United. We're in the same division as them. They're going to be looking at this top six. I'm telling you, they were terrible last year, and they still managed to get into the top six in a really good championship season. They'll still be looking at the top six. Norwich, they'll be looking at elevating their side in the next 2 weeks with the new ownership, and then in January again. They'll definitely add to what they've got now. And we know in the championship, you just need a good run towards the back end of the season to get into those playoff spots. Norwich will be targeting that again. So the reason I'm bringing that up, everybody, is because Leeds are a competitor to Norwich. With the greatest of respect, this isn't Leeds and a Derby or Leeds and a Portsmouth. And a lot of you are going to be laughing at that. Connor, we drew to Portsmouth 3-3 at the weekend, you nugget. We did. But I also think that Leeds played well for large portions of that. We saw some good performances, and I think Leeds are still going to elevate from that. I'm not 100% sure Portsmouth will elevate from that. Could be wrong, of course, but there are differences in this division. There's a difference in playing for Portsmouth than there is Leeds. There's a difference in playing for Norwich than there is Leeds. However, in that top 6 bracket, I still expect Norwich and Leeds to be there. So we're competitors. I don't expect Derby. I don't expect Portsmouth to be there. So that's the big difference. And I could be wrong with that, of course, but that is the picture that we're looking at right now, everybody, when it comes to Leeds United, and it looks to, when it comes to Jonny Rowe. So mass moving parts. What do we do? Do we just pay the money now? I think my little bit of annoyance with this now as it's developing and developing and developing. I was asked yesterday by Joe, are Leeds going to sign anyone this week? And I said no. Because in my life as a Leeds United supporter, I know it sounds ridiculous, but when there's games in a week and it's towards the back end of the window, Leeds don't seem to sign anyone. If there's games in the week, we don't seem to sign anyone. The focus is on the game. The media's on the game. Everyone at Leeds United is focused on Borough, and then they're focused on West Bromwich Albion. That's how it's always been my entire life with this club. You never, rarely towards the back end of the window if Leeds have got games. Oh, hold on, everyone. There we go. Back on. But that weirdly just never happens. So anyway, hopefully that will be a bit of a difference this week, and we will actually be looking at bringing some new additions in. But for me right now, it needs to develop. This has to develop now. If we're looking at 3 bodies in, which Daniel Farker said, by the way, in the press conference that he wants. Okay, if he wants 3 bodies in 2 weeks, and I know what I've just mentioned there about Sheffield United and potentially Norwich bringing players in quickly. Leeds, in my lifetime, and even now, don't appear to move that quickly. We assess, we evaluate, we look at every player's profile, of course, how they're going to fit into the side, their personality, their quality, of course. This due diligence, it should all be done anyway. However, it does take Leeds time to be able to evaluate and move, it feels, I think with Jonny Rowe, I would have a cap on it. I think there should have been a cap on it this week, but I would have a cap on it. If you can't get it done by X date, move on. There are plenty of unbelievable wingers that we can attract from the continent. Very, very good wingers that we could attract from the Premier League in terms of loan. Move the F on. Because if this is going and going and going and going, I've just got an awful feeling that what's going to happen. Norwich are going to end up pricing Leeds out of it. Jonny Rowe's going to declare that he'll stay at Norwich until January. He'll apologise. We've seen that whole saga before. It always seems to happen, doesn't it? So I don't want that to happen. I want the club to be prepared. And for 3 signings to come in 2 weeks, for us, we all know that takes, look, positive or negative, blah, blah, blah. No, it's facts. It's realism, okay? Realism here. Taking out, licking the club's arse or whatever that some people do. You've got to look at it, the blueprint. Leeds take their time with signings. It's always been the case, and it still is the case now. So getting 3 signings in right now, a lot of us are probably going, that's impossible. It is, and that's just based on historical context when it's come to January, it's come to these summer months. However, they can get it done. It's realism. They, of course, can get it done. But I don't know, everyone. I don't know. We're seeing moving parts happen now. Are Leeds just waiting? Are we waiting and waiting and waiting to then make our move? We know we've always been opportunists, but how long can we wait? We know Farker wanted these players a little bit earlier on to integrate with them with the side as well. He's said that in his press conference. He's talking, yappa like he normally does. And sometimes I genuinely believe the 49ers would just probably want him to not talk and say things like that. I would have ideally liked them at the start of the window. The transfer, we know when it comes to it. Well, yeah, Daniel, but you haven't. Hold on, everyone. I think we just had a bit of a break. Hold on a sec. Oh, bear with me. Camera's having a malfunction. Right, well, this is interesting, isn't it, everyone? Right, we're back. I think we're back. No, not OBS. We're not on the watch along yet. We're back. The issues of live streaming sometimes. There we go. We're back. So yeah, everyone, a lot to consider here. A lot to consider when it comes to Leeds United. But I'm just going to get into a few of your comments, and you can let me know what you think. Clem says, "Morning, Connor from Monroe, New Hampshire. Personally, I'd rather a new goalkeeper at the minute." Right, we're going to move this on, everyone. Hold on a second. Well, there you go. You're gonna get the different angle now. Yeah, morning, Connor from Monroe, New Hampshire. Personally, I'd rather a new goalkeeper at the moment, but that ain't happening, unfortunately. Yeah, you bang on there, mate. I agree with you, by the way. Completely agree with you in that respect. 15 million and package Gelhardt since Farker won't use him. He's not coming, says Alex. Too complicated a deal. Time is ticking. Tom Baker, I don't know, but I got a really good thought. GK isn't happening. Move on. Farker loves Mez. Yeah, it's definitely not happening. We move on. Even 8 million is a lot for Jonny Rowe. We can get better value on the continent. Yeah, and Luke T said, unbelievable hard stream. Yeah, and I agree with you, mate. I agree. Apologies for the camera, everybody. We will sort that for the next stream, of course. But yeah, sometimes these lovely things happen with live streaming. But I completely agree with everyone. I think it's going to be a tough end to the window, but at least we can get it done. We can get it done. We're big enough. We're ugly enough to get this sort of stuff done. And invariably, that Jonny Rowe deal is there to be done. It's there to be done 100%, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Keep getting your thoughts in. Dan says, hi, Connor. I really don't know whether to go for Morgan Whittaker. His numbers last year were brilliant. Yeah. Monaco says, Brett, how are you, mate? Thank you for the great content and smash the likes. You lively and lovely. Yeah, guys, slap a like on the video as well. There's over 1,600 of you in the building on all platforms. We're getting like 1,800 every morning now. So yeah, shout out. We just hit 1,700 right now, actually. Please make sure you're liking the video. We got off the stream yesterday and there's 300 likes. It's free to like. It just shows higher in their algorithm as well, everybody. We are going to tonight have the debrief. It's going to be a little bit more of a Middlesbrough preview, but it is me and Joe. Joe's going to be on the channel, and we're going to be chatting everything Middlesbrough, chatting everything Leeds. Basically, yeah, the debrief, unfortunately, Oscar and Gabe are not available this week, everybody, so we're not going to have the debrief this week. I reckon Norwich will sign Schmodix. Yeah, well, yeah, what I would say about Schmodix is he's a different profile. Of course he is. He's a different profile. I just wonder how that would work with Peru. Peru is not a similar profile to him whatsoever. We know that. He's a very different profile. But he is in that number 10 role. It feels like we're playing a little bit more of a 4-2-3-1. And if you're playing a 4-2-3-1, is the camera back? Have we got camera life, everybody? Will this work, or is it going to be an absolute you-know-what house? I think we might be back. We might be back. We'll wait and see. If it starts to jitter again, we are not coming back onto this. This is the beauty of live streaming, everybody. This is the worst it's been, actually, isn't it? I apologize for that. But yeah, when it comes to Sammy Schmodix, it's going to be interesting to see if Leeds were able to do that sort of business, because you've got Perot in there, and if you've got Perot in there, what happens to him if Schmodix comes in? And this is the thing, who cares in a sense of what happens to Joel Peru, but you kind of have to care what happens to Joel Peru. He's your asset, he's your player. If you are going to sell him on in the future, he needs to be playing football matches. So it's not all just about getting Sammy Schmodix in. I think you've got to see where he's going to fit. And if Joel Peru is going to be in that number 10, going forward, or if you're going to see Dan James in there and then Rutter in the 10, how do you sell that to Sammy Schmodix? It's all well and good us saying, let's go and get Sammy Schmodix. Where does he fit in a 4-2-3-1? Where does he fit? He's not going to get in front of it. Farker evidently likes out-and-out wingers. James, Nonto, whatever, gets Jonny Rowe in, out-and-out winger. The number 10 role then is occupied. I'd love to see Rutter wide right. I'd love to see Rutter wide right. And at least then you'd get, if Schmodix came in, you'd get him competing with Joel Peru, okay? But then are they going to bring anyone in to compete with Joel Peru? Is that what they want? Or are they satisfied with Peru? Have we even been rumoured with any 10s? We haven't, have we really? Jubicic, more of an 8. Who else? Schmodix was a little bit of agent talk, it felt like. Are Leeds going to panic? I mean, if they panicked and signed Schmodix, I wouldn't be upset at that at all. How can you be upset at a guy who's top scorer last season in the division for Blackburn? We just have to work him in. And then if you get in, if you're getting Mr. Farker then complaining that he's not got X, Y, and Z, then you've got Sammy Schmodix, mate. You've got the player who's scored the most goals in the division. You've got a team who are like the Avengers at this level. Come on, let's get it going. What I would say, what has he spoken about Farker, right? What's been the main thing that he complained about last season? Give you all a bit of time to think. In and around about the January period, I'm going to see if anyone nails it. What did he complain about that Ipswich essentially had that we didn't? Okay, I'm going to give you 5 seconds whilst I drink my yerba. Maybe 10. What did he complain about Leeds not having? Man, look at all you. You're all, look at this. Okay? All of you so dialed in on this channel. I absolutely love all of you because you listen and you know what? You're all on the money because you know anyway. You all know, all of you. Look at all this. Look at all this. Every single one of you. I reckon you all believe that as well. The team is riddled with younger players. We've not really, aside from Rothwell, but we had Kamara. Kamara was 28. Rothwell's 29. You've not brought anyone in who is of that mold, have you? You've not brought anybody in who's experienced. So I think that's my main concern with him. And maybe that's why he's talking, obviously, about having X, Y, and Z in 3 players potentially before the window ends. But Rowe comes in. Rowe's 21. Okay. So you've let Somerville go. Somerville is what, 23, was he? 23? That's not experience, but it's more experience than, like, let's say, a Jonny Rowe. Rothwell's come in. Bogle's 23. Ayling's gone and Cooper's gone and Dallas has gone, obviously, last season. But his main issue at the back end of the season was we don't have experience. So my question is, in that Norwich side, when you've got Vrancic, when you've got Pukki, when you've got, you know, these forward lines, you got obviously Onel Hernandez was a little bit younger, wasn't he? But throughout that Norwich side, you've got it was Zimmerman was there, wasn't he? You've got a lot of older heads. With this Leeds side now, it's still very young. It is still very young. You can say that with Sheffield United. You know, Sheffield United is a relatively young side as well. But I do look at it and think, have we got the blend right? Have we got the blend right with what he wants? Because if the manager's complaining about something, if the manager's saying, well, we don't have X, Y, and Z, that's a worry for me. That's a worry. You spoke about getting a Somerville replacement. So if he's speaking about it, we then need to go and get, we need to go and get that replacement. If he's speaking about no experience, and that's true, Philip. You know, that is true. You know, age doesn't matter. Doesn't mean experienced player. You look at Ilan Mele, experienced player. He's had loads of games. So you are bang on there. Jayden Bogle played an absolute you-know-what ton of games. But would he, I think age does play a factor in it, mate, because, you know, you'll get the likes of Joe Rothwell, who's played more games than pretty much any Leeds United player who's 29 years of age. So I do think age does matter, but I get your point. But if he's talking about experience, I think we do need experience in that midfield a little bit more. I think, you know, aside from Joe Rothwell, it's youngsters, really. And I'm going to be interested to see what happens here in these last... And we'll be here on One Leeds, as you guys always know. But it's going to be fascinating to see how this develops. Really interesting, because Leeds, I agree with Farker. Do we need 3 players? No. We don't need 3 players at all. We've got the best team in the division, I think. Maybe conversation about Burnley. Sheffield United are up there as well. And a lot of you guys think I'm mental when I say that. The reason I'm saying that is because I genuinely do believe, even depth-wise, we've got a lot of depth. And the manager needs 3 more players. I don't think we need 3 more players. I'd like another 1 or 2. But if the window's shut now, would I be disappointed? I'd be a bit like, oh, do we look a little bit light? But I'm still confident. I'm still confident we can get the job done with the team that we've got right now. But the manager was saying at the back end of last season, he wants experienced players, more experienced players in the summer. I don't know if we've addressed that this summer. If I'm honest with you, I don't think we have. And he also said in the press conference the other day that he wants essentially 3 players. That's what he said. He wants 3 players. Spoke about Somerville replacement, and then he spoke about getting a couple more in. more bits and pieces. That's what he was talking about, using those sorts of words. So if the manager's saying that, that's what the manager needs. So as fans, we can't then go, well, we don't need X, Y, and Z. Because if the manager's working with these players week in, week out, I'd worry about the manager not getting these players. He evidently needs these players, these more players. So if he gets these players again, and he gets more players, 2 or 3 extra bodies, and as we said, a row coming in instead of a Somerville or whatever. It's a proper squad. The squad now is a quality squad in my opinion at this level. If he genuinely brings him in, like 2 or 3 more bodies in, Jesus, it's a top squad again. So we're all looking at the other sides now: Burnley, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday. What I wouldn't do, everybody, is I wouldn't get too upset about this. I wouldn't think if I'm you or whatever, I wouldn't think it's game over right now. I wouldn't be looking at these sides and thinking, do you know what? Burnley have won 4-1 last night. Brilliant win, by the way. Brilliant win. I thought Luton looked awful, but brilliant win. I won't be looking at Sheffield Wednesday thinking, bloody hell. I won't be looking at Sheffield United and thinking, because I think all of them are going to have bumps in the road. And I think Leeds still there was a lot to take away from the other day that was positive. There is a lot to work on, in my opinion, still. But there is a lot to take from the game the other day. The fact that we literally should have been 7-8-0 up in that game at some point. That on another day, if Leeds were to be ruthless, it's 7-8-0. They don't get through like they do. We don't make mistakes like we do, and we just put them away. We put them to bed. So Chris King, he says, we're the best squad with an average manager. We're now third best squad with an average manager. We were the best squad with an average manager. We're now the third best squad with an average manager. Yeah, look, I get that. But even if you're the third best squad, you're in, aren't you? You're in contention. Okay. And that's what we've got to be looking at. When teams have come down, the 3 teams that have come down, if you're still telling me, in your opinion, Chris, that we're top 3 squads, I'd still be thinking, okay. But it is the outliers. It's people who understandably say, if you've got a keeper whose save percentage is down there, squad's up there, right? But you've got a keeper whose save percentage is down here. His clean sheets are up here, but that's to do with the squad. And obviously him, slightly. But then you've also got all the statistics backing that he's a mid to low average goalkeeper. That's going to affect you throughout the season. 100%. I don't need to convince you of that. I completely disagree with Joe yesterday. Joe was saying that on penalties, it doesn't matter because the penalty taker is essentially always going to score. I don't agree with that. I think the goalkeeper and the penalty taker are masters at their craft. A goalkeeper should be a master at his craft in terms of saving a penalty kick. That's what they practice. That's what they will practice every day in penalties, in training, sorry. And a goalkeeper should be very decent. They probably get more practice saving penalties than that individual does at taking penalties. So I think a goalkeeper should be good at taking penalties and have at least 4 or 5 saves on the record out of 21, 22. Melee doesn't have that. And then I know the other outlier for people, probably me as well, but in fact, it is me. Me and KG have chats about this all the time. I am a fan who doesn't believe, and I will give him a chance. I will support him no matter what, as I will with Eli Melier, by the way. This is just criticism of which I believe, and I think where the squad can elevate. I personally don't believe Daniel Farke is the man to take Leeds through to the Premier League. I think he'll get us. I think that there's an option that he'll get us promoted. I think there's a serious thing. I think Leeds will still get promoted. But when I'm talking about us getting to the Premier League, is he the man to take us to that next step? That next step of which I think the 49ers, when they gave him that 4-year contract, were expecting. I'm not 100% sure he is. So we've kind of got this middle ground with 2 major pawns in the piece here. I'm going to support Daniel Farke. Do I think we'll get promoted? Yes. But I think we'll do it in spite of Farke, not because of Farke. I think this squad is going to be so good. And I do think we're going to get additions, but I think the squad is going to be so good that Leeds will get promoted. And I think the individuals are just going to show moments of class. And I think that's going to happen this season. I genuinely believe that. And I think Leeds will get promoted. But that is not because of Daniel Farke, in my personal opinion. my personal opinion. And I think the outlier of someone like Illan Meslier is going to be a problem throughout the season. I think that will be a problem throughout the season, but I think we will get out of jail a hell of a lot this season with just class. And I believe in the ownership structure. I do. And a lot of you might think that's a bit mental because I've just said that I'm not 100% on the manager, but I do believe in the ownership structure. And I think they're here for the long term. And looking at the health of the club, I think we'll be in a really decent position. So yeah, I fully expect Leeds to get promoted this season. I think that's going to happen. The fact that Farke continues to back Melee, just a question. Yeah, I think the thing is here, you as well. We do need players. We have a very small squad, one of the smallest in the championship for a 47 for 50 game season. Yeah, and Farke's look, Farke's just a pawn in this game, and look, he's a big pawn, of course he is. But I do think the individual talent will get Leeds United up. I think we'll be fine. There's a conversation where you can actually put Joe Rothwell in the advanced role as well, and I think that'd really work well. And we do have a small squad. I agree with that, but I think the immediate depth that Leeds have is very decent. The immediate depth we have is very decent. I think the big problem, and I was thinking about this the other day, is if Nonto is to get injured, that's a lot of the X factor gone. And then who is his replacement? It's still good replacement. It's still good depth. You've got Brendan Aronson coming in. Okay. That's good depth. Really good depth. You know, you could put Rutter on the right. You could put Perot in centre and then Dan James on the left. Okay. That could happen. So you've got options. You have got options there. It's just whether or not that depth is good enough. Yeah. And I personally think it is right now, but I'm not like flash in the pan for this squad would be good enough for Bielsa, wouldn't it? Of course it would. You know, Bielsa will get this side up as champions. I firmly believe that. I know you guys do as well. But I wonder if Farke needs some of the less talent on top of Nonto and Rutter to get us up. But then how do you sell the project to another player? How do you sell the project to another player? That Nonto's going to be starting week in, week out on that left. Rutter's going to be starting week in, week out. And invariably, it's pretty likely that Farke starts with Dan James. You just got to disrupt that Dan James balance, haven't you? Brett says, by the way, Connor, golf swing is about as good as yours, mate. Mate, I do not play golf. I'm terrible at golf. I prefer tennis. I prefer badminton, squash, football, rugby back in the day. Like I prefer the really active sports, but people love golf, don't they? So I took the missus for a little bit of a laugh. But if you haven't checked it out, everybody, you might have a little bit of a laugh. We did a video last night, me and my missus, and we spoke about Leeds for a little bit on it, of course, but might be worth it. I agree with what you says Roland Wolf about Daniel Farke. He's for now, not long term. Questioning is if we don't have a good run, and who do we bring in? Yeah, I don't know, mate. Roland, honestly, pal, I have no idea. I've absolutely no idea who we bring in, and I'm not thinking about that now. I'll back the gaffer 100%, and I will back him, and I think he'll get us up invariably, which is fantastic. But I'm not one of the majority, I think, who, you know, we went up last season. I wish we got the 90 points. I felt a lot of that was based on individual quality. Vibes FC. I don't think it was tactical acumen and the timing of substitutions and the fantastic use of substitutions. I give him credit for last season. He got us to 90 points, but I think it was the team. The team was just so frigging good that last season. You've seen what Archie's been doing pre-season. You've seen what Cree's going to do. We know what's going to happen. Like, they're two very good players in this squad, but I think we've replaced Archie very, very well, and that's what I'm saying. I've got a lot of faith in the 49ers. I haven't got as much faith in Daniel Farke, to be honest with you. But I've always been quite consistent with that. You know. So let's get a few more comments in, and then we'll get out of here. By the way, guys, we have got the debrief tonight. We've got a Borough preview. It's going to be really good. Myself and Joe back on the stream together on One Leeds as well. Make sure you're tuning in for that. If you want to head on over to the Patreon as well, it really, really helps me. You guys going over there. I've started writing stuff as well, and we've got a soft launch coming really, really soon. Obviously, you guys know my background's journalism. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, links in the description below. We've got some paid bits as well when it comes to your merchandise. Link in the description below as well. I keep telling you guys to check that out. Well worth it. Well worth it. So as I say, guys, it's positive. It's all positive today. Leeds have had a massive boost when it's come to Jonny Rowe today. Let's see how we develop on this. I'm really hoping this one comes through. Really, really hoping this one comes through. I love Jonny Rowe. I think he's got so many attributes to his game. He's helped this side out massively. Do we need him? It's a question there. Do I want him? Yeah, of course I do. And does the manager want him? Yeah, which is the most important discussion here. Once again, apologies for the camera. I'm going to have to sort you out, mate. I'm going to have to sort that thing out. That's not normally happened before, as you guys know, if you're catching up with me every single morning. But thank you so much for your support, as always, on the One Leeds fan channel. We've hit 1,900 viewers this morning, which is unbelievable. And I'm just waffling about Leeds. I know a lot of you are at work. I know a lot of you have come home as well. And you just want to listen to me for some bizarre reason, but it means a hell of a lot. It genuinely means a hell of a lot. You're all absolute legends, and the One Leeds community is growing and growing and growing and growing. I think it was the biggest amount of subscribers we had last month, biggest amount of watch hours, biggest amount of view time. I think we had 760,000 views in 28 days. Unbelievable. So thank you so much for doing what you do. I know all of you who are here regularly as well. Genuinely, I see the names. I know all of you. Shout out to you. Shout out to the patrons, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure this morning. And I'll see you this evening for the debrief / Middlesbrough preview. See you in a bit.